The Marine Corps requires leaders of all ranks to have a deep understanding of war and the employment of force. MCDP 1 reminds Marines that the military profession is a thinking profession. Every Marine is expected to be a student of the art and science of war. It goes on to say that every Marine has an individual responsibility to study the profession of arms. Self-directed study in the art and science of war is at least equal in importance to maintaining physical condition and should receive at least equal time. The Marine Corps Association understands the critical importance of ensuring that Marines are as mentally ready for combat as they are physically ready. That is why we offer an entire page dedicated to wargaming on our website. We have recommendations for both tabletop board games as well as computer games. And for Marine Corps Association members, there is a discount code for War Game Design Studios that you can find on the website. War games are a great way to immerse yourself in history and to put yourself in the shoes of the great leaders of history. Go beyond guided instruction and experience the thrill of wargaming. Check us out at mca-marines.org/decision-making-exercises/wargaming-2. That's mca-marines.org/decision-making-exercises/wargaming-2. Take your training to the next level. Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Vic. I'm here with Nancy.
Hi, everyone.
And I'm so happy that you are joining us today because this is a true honor for us here at the show to have our extremely esteemed guest. I'm just so excited. I'm really kind of at a loss for words. I'm like giddy. But we are so honored and humbled to be welcoming Major General William Seeley, Commandant of the Eisenhower School at the National Defense University. General, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, sir, it's great to be here. Scuttlebutt is a great podcast, so I'm looking forward to a great conversation today with you and Nancy.
That compliment alone.
I know, we're done here.
Okay,
That's all we need.
Thank you for joining us, folks. This has been a great...
we peaked.
Yeah, this is it. I'm going to date myself on this antiquated pop culture reference, but it's like Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World. Like, we're not worthy. This is so great. And for you to take the time out of your, I can only imagine, tremendously busy schedule to be with us. This is, again, thank you, General, so much for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Obviously, we would need a series of podcasts to get into the entirety of your distinguished career. But if you could, for our listeners who aren't aware of who you are or what the National Defense University is or even what a Major General is, could you just sort of give us a little bit about your background, where you came from, what brought you to the Marine Corps, be as detailed or succinct as you want, but how did you become a Marine, sir?
Sure, that's a great question, and maybe not too unlike a lot of us who joined the Marine Corps over the the last several millennia, if you will, last couple hundred years. Well, first I was born in Saigon during the war. My father was an engineer with Brown and Root. And met my mother, of course, and then I was born there during the war in Saigon proper. And I guess my affiliation with the military kind of started early in the sense that I was born very sick, and so I spent basically the first couple of months at the 3rd Army Field Hospital.
Oh, no kidding!
Next to Tonson Airport, and was cared for by Army doctors and nurses, and so. That's my first introduction to the military, if you will. In 1970-71 time frame, the war was drawing to an end at this point. Vietnamization had started, and the drawdown in Vietnam was in full execution. So the contracts, of course, were terminated, and then everybody started returning back to the United States. So my family, we all relocated to actually Palm Desert, Palm Springs area outside of 20 Palms. Mm-hmm. My dad actually did some work at 20 Palms as a construction civil engineer. And then and then my brush with the military, so to speak, occurred later on during the fall of Saigon in '75. We know that refugees, a lot of them were taken with the withdrawal to Camp Pendleton.
Yeah, that's where my mom came in, 75.
Sure, right. And then and so because my dad could still speak Vietnamese at the time, I did still speak Vietnamese. I've lost it now, unfortunately, and my mother. So we all drove to Camp Pendleton and actually helped with relocation efforts. So not only working, if you will, I would I was little then, of course, but I would be playing with little kids and helping distribute toys. My father also, because he was still very fluent in Vietnamese, was helping obviously adults along with my mother. And my mother at one point had flown to Guam, and she was there as part of Operation Baby Lift. So as orphans were flown out from Saigon, they were flown to Guam. She helped, and then flew them back to the United States, CONUS, and then they were going back, and she went back for a second trip, and that's when, if you go back and look at some of the old archived news, a C-5 Galaxy crashed on leaving Tonsonet, Saigon, and it killed everybody on board, unfortunately. But but my mother and her team, if you will, were waiting in Guam for these these little kids and babies that come in. It was a really sad event. Obviously, my mother has still we still talk about it all these years later. That
the tragedy,
the tragedy, the sadness everybody felt that so many lives were lost. During that plane crash. So that's 1975, and then. Fast forward, I ended up going to high school in Connecticut to a small private school, and when I was a senior, it was kind of, hey, what are you going to do? You're talking to your guidance counselors, and I don't know what to do, and everybody was going to college, and then it became well, how are you going to pay for college, and the usual discussions you have with parents, and as well as your peers, your fellow students, as well as your faculty members. So, a friend of mine said, "Hey, my dad was in the Marine Corps back in the '50s." I'm like, I didn't know that, but it also explained a lot of things about about his dad. And he was he happened to be the headmaster of this small school, and I really did idolize him. He was again, just the truest of professionals. He could turn it on, turn it off. He knew when to be a disciplinarian. He knew when to be a mentor. He knew when to be a friend. And I was always impressed also with his presence. He had a certain command presence in any situation, whether that be addressing students, maybe at a student town hall, or in the classroom, or in mixed company with students and faculty, or just kind of observing him speaking with maybe alumni, on reunion weekends or what have you. So I asked him about it. I said, hey, sir, your son says that you were in the Marine Corps. He's like, yeah, I was back in the 1950s. And I kind of asked him what it was like, and he told me this really funny story about how he came here to Quantico, he went to the PLC program, and how he had flagged his rifle just by mistake. And this was at a time when candidates back then used to qualify on the rifle range during their OCC periods, as opposed to now we qualify or TBS officers do. And he had flagged his weapon, and the drill instructor quickly came over, obviously, and took the weapon, and then said in a flash of an eye, had picked him up and thrown him on the ground, and had his boot on his head, and was chewing him out. And I was like, yeah, that's for me. That in the sense that that discipline was, and rules, if you will, and regulations designed for safety, of course, but
Sure.
but that whole idea, okay, that that an organization was, had a standard, and that standard was to be maintained all the time. That kind of impressed me. And then, of course, everything else that goes with what the headmaster had relayed about the Marine Corps, about it being professional, being elite. And then he gave me a homework assignment, and he said, okay, now I've told you a little bit about, kind of like the personal side, but then he said, I want you to go write me an essay about Semper Fidelis. And that's all he said. He didn't tell me what it meant. He didn't I didn't know what it meant at the time,
yeah.
right? Until I dug in old school wise, right? And there's no internet back then.
Yeah, but say Bill,
Encyclopedias.
This was encyclopedias and going to the library and kind of looking up some old records, and there we have it, right? And the first image you pop up with in any kind of history book is, obviously Iwo Jima, Semper Fidelis, Always Faithful, and then we just kind of go down that road about what the Marine Corps, what is the Marine Corps, who are Marines, and then how they they are a reflection of the entire nation, right? And that the Marine Corps is part of our of America's history, and so all of that just kind of that's it, right? So even though I'd spoken to other recruiters, if you will, for ROTC scholarships and the like, and a potential of where I should go, it never wavered.
And did any of that sort of hyperlink back to your experiences growing up then? I don't know, as a child in Vietnam, did you ever come across any Marines? Or
No, not that I can remember. I mean, in terms of faded memories over time, I do recall distinct helicopter. That we lived near Tan Son Nhut in Saigon, and near, in fact, that same Third Army Field Hospital. So helicopters are flying. It would seem like in my memory 24/7, right?
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it. I think one of the things that kind of in between myself, me making the decision to kind of pursue a commission in the Marine Corps, my family and I were on vacation in the early '80s in Egypt, and we'd arrived, and it was hey, we're gonna go see the pyramids and the
Sphinx
and it's just all that stuff you do in Cairo, which was fantastic, and just by sheer dumb luck, or depending on how bad luck, President Sadat was assassinated.
Oh God! While you were there,
while we were there, and so we went right into curfew. There were tanks and Egyptian troops and police on the streets instantaneously, and that was kind of also this. Hey, the world's a lot bigger than and a lot different than what you think, and just seeing the response. That was kind of interesting to see, and there were at the time, because it was he was assassinated at their national day, and a lot of American dignitaries were there to for the festivities. They were all staying at the same hotel we were at, just again by coincidence. We can see them kind of hustling about. This is from my high school eyes, kind of thing, observing all of this and like, wow, this is really important. This is global, right? This is going to have regional and potential global ramifications, and just kind of seeing that. What American senior leaders were doing, and I was like, wow, that's just got to push the bug in you. And the idea, as I learned about what Marines do, responding to crisis, being the first to fight, being on the scene, helping Americans, and then of course through the course of our high school years, that's when Beirut happens, right? Puts the Marines in the forefront again, kind of thing. And so you're like, okay, this is where I kind of like this whole need to I really want to do what they do. I really want to serve and be a part of an organization that helps others, not just regionally and with a community, but globally, to help.
Well, and given world events at that time, what was the reaction and response from your family when you told them about your decision?
Well, coming out of Vietnam, and seeing what understanding what my father had seen there, even though he was a construction worker, but he still was out and about. He did not just stay on a fob like we remember from our Gulf War experience. He was very much out, served out the country, and he went all the way from north to south, and he had served with every armed force. I mean, he served with Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, whether it be at a base or out in out in the field. And a lot of the stuff he did were civilian road construction. He built what we would call FOBs today, but again, these were forward operating bases used for operations, and he did say flat out that the Marine Corps, the Marines that he had served with or were in his vicinity when he was out there working were the best ones, right? In terms of the VC never messed
right
with their construction crews, and he was paired up a lot of times with Navy Seabees, and they said they never got messed with when Marines were on duty, and it was just kind of like again his observation.
Yeah.
And like anything, like any parent, hey, they want to obviously what's good for you, what's best for you, and then is this what you really want to do? Yes, I do. Okay, well then they were full support, obviously, and then and just that was it. And in my case, very simple, not like anything else. Just got a ROTC scholarship and just kind of continue to pursue, and do the best that I could.
That's so interesting. We've talked a
Yeah.
number of times on the show. My mom's response was much different. She didn't really get on board until I think my commissioning ceremony. But because I was already an adult, I was in college. I didn't say like, "Hey, what do you think?" It's like, "Hey, guess what I did?"
Sure.
And there was the audible, pants shitting sound.
Yeah.
All of my uncles were totally stoked on it. All of my aunts
Sure.
just absolutely hated it. And it makes me think back to, and I want to ask you about your experiences at the refugee camp, because it's sort of some dead space for me. Obviously, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah.
But it was so traumatic for my family, and my mom in particular, I think. We just never really talked about it. I got a little bit of it from my dad. He was a musician studying at UCSD, and he was actually there to learn about East Asian music. His focus was on East Asian music. And so he heard the Southeast Asian musicians were coming in. My family ran sort of like, I guess you could equate it to like the Wiggles in Vietnam.
Right.
My uncles were in a Beatles a cover band. It was all. And so he started. That's how he met my mom, was through this way. But it's really sort of dead space. My mom doesn't like talking about it. My dad unfortunately just passed away, and he didn't have a whole lot because he was just kind of in and out. What were your experiences going there as, essentially now, an American, a Vietnamese American with Vietnamese refugees?
No, that's a good question. Admittedly, at first, it's like, hey, what are we doing here? Like, I don't understand, right? And then really, it was about my parents telling me, and others are like, hey, just go play with these kids. And I do remember a lot of maybe again from a little kid's perspective, a lot of confusion.
Yeah, like,
right?
What are you doing here? Yeah.
Right. It's like, and then why are you here? And
how do you speak Vietnamese? Yeah.
Right. And then and I'm conversing with the little kids and and so forth, and but to still go through it, and then you're distributing, like, hey, here's some toys, here's some stuff, here's some clothes. Do these fit? What do you think? And then you just kind of, I'm just kind of there to entertain, if you will, and really kind of, along with some others, keep the kids occupied while the adults are being taken care of in terms of where will they go now, right? So, then talking to my parents afterward, it was about, they were there to try to get church groups and other aid organizations, if you will, to then take in these families, as sponsors, and then start to move from there. And there were some that relocated out to where we were living in Palm Springs, and they ended up at our church too as well, which is a good thing. I think that was a very good, a really good support effort that was done then. I think, at least that's what my memories tell me anyway. In terms of receiving these families and then doing their best, if you will, to integrate them quickly, into American society, American culture, and then allowing them to flourish. And I think in a great many ways, that's exactly what happened. I mean, so I'll kind of let me leap forward now to where I am now, and then we'll go back.
Sure.
I'm one of at least 5 Vietnamese generals that I know of, Vietnamese American generals. Viet Long was the first Vietnamese American to be promoted to flag officer in the Army. The second one was a gentleman by the name of Lap de Floria. I think he's the Army National Guard. Huan Nguyen is a Navy Reserve Admiral, now retired. And then now there's an Air Force General, John Edwards, as well. And I understand there's another Vietnamese American admiral that also has been selected, and for flag. So we would have come out of that same generation, right then, right, based on our age and where we are today.
Sure. Right.
So again, it's the welcoming and the ability, and then America, if you will, giving the opportunity for anybody, all of us, me, them, to pursue, if you will, a life of service. In this case, the other services. In my case, the Marine Corps. And I think that's what it says, about what we did then and where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, talking to my family members that do remember that. Like one of my youngest uncle was still an undergrad, and so my dad, being a grad student at UCSD, actually got him in, and then he became an engineer. Was at UCSD, like maxed out all the math exams and everything. So he was highly coveted. But I remember them talking about also doing some study through college and stuff, that there was a concerted effort to try to not create a new enclave.
Sure.
And so my family being professional, doctors and attorneys, they did scatter. So like I had folks, family go to Kansas City, Delaware, Nebraska. We ended up in Michigan. Because they were filling a need. For example, in Indiana, my cousins grew up there because the state penitentiary system didn't have enough doctors. And so new refugees come in with all of these medical credentials and experience. And so, hey, we'll give them a house and you'll be the penitentiary doctors. Sure. Met a very critical need for these areas that were lacking for, manpower, essentially.
Yep.
But it's interesting how everybody did end up coming back, because you said you grew up Southern California originally, and that's interesting where everybody else ended up,
Sure.
too. Everybody came back to Orange County.
Yeah, that's right.
Into the Garden Grove, Westminster
Yep.
area. So
Yeah.
interesting how that all played out.
So you were talking about service. Is the idea of service, was that something that was talked about often in your house growing up?
Yes, just from going to church, right? That's I think a lot of people's background. Where you try to, I think so when somebody told me that hey, our core values, if you will, of honor, courage, commitment that we know and love in the Marine Corps are also taught by, at one level, at one point they're all taught by your family, right? You learn those with your family and with your close friends growing up. And then, but entering the Marine Corps, you get to practice that, right? Every day, right? It's leadership, 101, and then for the rest of your life in the Marine Corps. And then even if you leave the Marine Corps, now you've practiced it, you've lived it, you thrived in it, you move forward. That was kind of set also into me with the prep school we went to was all about what we called self-help or community service. And that it was about, if you wanted some things done, you had to do them yourself, right? So this is, kind of funny, but this school was built upon, again, what's called the self-help system. And and you can think of it, maybe it sounds very military-like, but it's not. We use terms like prefects and proctors, vice, cadet, sergeant, major, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd see at some small private schools with a military cadet system. Seniors and juniors, had responsibilities and job titles. So let's say, pick you were, in charge of main building and you had East Dormitory, Nancy, so forth, right? So, and then that was your domain, if you will, that you're responsible for that. And so, and then a couple of times during the day, you were assigned underclassmen students to make sure that the building was running and
like
functioning.
Working
parties. I mean, it was
nice.
like, it was trash cans. It was cleaning classrooms. It was cleaning bathrooms. It was all of those things that were part of the system. And over time, those underclassmen became seniors, and then those seniors are now responsible for, again, what you had to do. And so, so it was, you quickly learned that, I just can't trash this room.
Yeah.
And then have there's somebody going to come in and pick it up. No, because I'm going to probably come back and have to pick it up.
Right.
Right. So I learned not to be, if you will, a slob. Take care of my own environment. Take care of what I had. Of my classroom. Take care of my dormitories or what have you.
Pride and ownership.
Yeah, that was it. And so that was part of our ethos. The self-help system, community service was always built and kind of imposed on us, if you will, for everything good. And that has continued, right? So that's why it was so easy to transition to college and then right into the Marine Corps, with the whole idea of community service, right? Everything due, and then the whole notion of being the servant leader. Okay, how can I help others, right? From a peer, how can I help you? And then if people who are assigned to me are responsible, or or at least at work in my office, how can I help them all the time to make their jobs and their jobs easier and to be more efficient, to create a culture of belonging, to function as a team. So I think it was really important.
And so, what was the process for you going from Southern California to Connecticut? Was that just a family job?
It was family job,
Yeah.
thing, and then and that was really about it. And then my father had gone to that same private school
Okay.
years ago, and they just thought it was good for me. It was good. It's good for you, son. Okay,
Yeah.
And so
Sure, Dad.
I dropped into that, and then and that was it. And then it was just, my undergraduate years were at American University here in Washington D.C.
I'm an American University grad myself. Yeah.
In the School of International Service, and it was a great experience. And then was able to attend through a Navy ROTC scholarship, Marine option, and that's
And you were doing the ROTC at GW.
at George Washington. That's
Yeah.
correct, downtown, and through the consortium
Mm-hmm.
network they have here, and it was a great opportunity. Lifelong friends out of that experience. And then graduated on a Sunday. I was at Quantico on Tuesday. And then I just kept rowing and kept rowing and kept rowing. And,
Yeah.
someone once told me, like, hey, well, he'll keep rowing until we tell him to stop. They haven't told me to stop yet, so I'll just keep on rowing.
Yeah. This is going to be a well-worn path, and I apologize if you've answered this question 1,000 times, but for me, it's extremely fascinating. But what was it like for you, especially moving West Coast, East Coast, being Vietnamese American? I can't imagine at the time, me, I was, still in diapers or, in the early 80s, my most fond memory was seeing Empire Strikes Back in
Sure.
1982.
Thanks for rubbing that in.
Yeah.
That was really
There you go.
awesome. Appreciate that feeling. Now I feel really old.
I do, being in Detroit, like it was,
Yeah.
there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. I was
Sure.
the smelly food kid.
Yeah.
Similar for you, sir? Was it more?
I think maybe like I remember at least at the early age of again in Southern California, at least living out in the Palm Desert, Palm Springs area, one of very few, if you will, Asian kids attending elementary school, right?
Yeah.
If memory serves me correctly, at least through my kindergarten through second, third grade, there was one other
Okay.
Asian kid, and his name was Rudy. I can still remember that today.
Yeah, nice.
And that's just demographics, right?
Mhm.
And then kind of fast forward a little bit, but then for a while we lived in San Francisco, completely different environment,
Yeah.
right? So very, very diverse, all different types of cultures being dropped in there. But again, shifting all the way out to to the East Coast. The school I attended was diverse. It prided itself on diversity. One of maybe a few, but still a few. But at least there was representation, if you want to call it that, across all demographics. And then same thing, of course, here in Washington D.C.
Sure.
Yeah, the same thing. I think maybe for me personally, there's an observation there. Like, I'm the only one in here. I'm the only one of whatever I am. Right, the shortest person, the person with the S at the end. So I'm at the back of the line. If you're going to line up alphabetically, right? Or if we're going to go in height order, I'm still at the back of the line. So there are all of these things that we do to categorize people and to try to put labels on them. But I also see that as like, okay, all right, so what? And then you kind of drive. And I think that's where the Marine Corps kind of, in my experience, in any way, just like, okay, so I may be labeled initially as something, but really everything that we do as Marines is really based on merit, based on leadership, based on teamwork. And then you kind of move beyond that. So we may initially put labels on people just because we have to keep some type of record for whatever reason, administratively, we'll say.
Yeah.
But then it really does come down to like, okay, who's in charge and what are we doing? All right, here's task, mission, purpose. Let's get after it. Those things really come out. I think it doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
That I think that's what attracted me into the Marine Corps, and then it was based on, hey, it's the same old course for everybody, right? It's the same rifle range, qualification,
distance,
so there's no difference. So it's really about how you can, how you do. And so again, what's great about the Marine Corps is it just gave me the opportunity. And it gives everybody the same opportunity. It's up to you or that individual to step through the door. Right, and once you step through the door, it's about doing your very best. And as I've heard people talk about, and if you fall flat on your face, at least you're moving forward, right? So you get back up. You get back up, and then you take a lesson learned, and you do it again, and you do it again, and do it again until you get it right, or you improve that PFT score or that rifle score or what have you, right? And achieve the right cutting score to make rank, to work on your finish reports or what have you. It's all about performance, and that's the greatest thing I think that we have, in the Marine Corps. It's about, hey, opportunity, and we want people to excel. We want people to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the and it sounds to me like you've had a benefit of being in a lot of places that really put merit ahead of other things, giving you responsibility and giving you those opportunities to succeed. Obviously, Marine Corps, we pride ourselves on, like you said, the 200 meters is 200 meters.
Sure.
A 18-minute PFT is an 18-minute PFT.
Sure.
And so, as you're then progressing through the Marine Corps, then I'm assuming then there's not a lot of outside influences telling you who you should be or who they're expecting you, or not putting you into a box. You're allowed to have your identity rest upon your own accomplishments.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way of saying it, right?
Yeah.
My identity is based on, and I think everybody's identity, right? So it doesn't, across the force, all our leaders, it's them really kind of rising to the moment, when given that moment, right? So if you're put into a key billet, whether that be from squad leader, fire team leader, squad leader, all the way up to commanding general of the division. Hey, you've been given the opportunity. It's up to you to again succeed or fail.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's what people expect. Well, they expect success, number one, and then so you just all Marines rise to that occasion, as I kind of previously mentioned. They rise to that occasion, and that success, when they rise to that occasion, that success comes from what they're doing as, again, servant leaders, for their teams, respectively. And leading with confidence, leading with courage, leading all the way through with our with our ethos, serving with the highest ideals of integrity. I think that's really matters. I think deep down, that's what people want. They want to be able to trust their leaders, and that's where we see great leaders, right? And that's where we see some fall short, and that's fine. The system kind of works when some people fall short. And then they're kind of moved off to the side, no problem. And then we put another one in there, again based on what their ability to succeed is, and then we see them rise to the occasion and move the organization forward. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good thing. That's what we know and love and depend on. I think moving forward. I think that people may say, "Oh, he's Asian American, Vietnamese American." That's fine, but but the bottom line is, I still identify as a Marine.
Sure.
Who happens to be okay, and it's good, right? So if I can, so I guess from a use that term label, from a label perspective, that I can represent the guys at the back of the alphabet line, right? So because that's how many times in the Marine Corps. Hey, S, Sealy, bam, back of the line. Okay, got it, right? So I'm representing them too, right? Then it's all the short guys. Hey, got it, right? Yeah. I'm representing all the short guys.
We just recently schooled up Nancy on what little end meant.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
And that I'm always running in the back, right, during the ruck march. So when we're on a conditioning hike, that's me running. So I'm representing those guys too, right, and gals. Yeah. So I think that. We are who we are, and I think that how we lead, how we organize, how we trust everybody, about those abilities and capabilities, that people have, and their own their own commitment to really pour their own personal best and professional best into their jobs every day. That's what makes our Corps really. Really special.
Yeah, amen to that, sir. I do think. I'm sorry, Nancy.
No, I was just going to ask. So this idea of servant leaders and the importance of passing on this information to the next generation, or to those who you're serving with. Do you see yourself as a mentor, and who were some of your mentors as you were coming up through the Corps?
I don't necessarily see myself as a mentor. People have asked me for advice, right, or asked me to be a kind of a friend or a mentor, and sure, absolutely. Like I'll never turn anybody down, who wants to talk about, hey, what can I do? Where can I, how can I get better at certain things? And I'll give them advice. That's what advice is, right? And they can take it, or they can take it,
Right.
and they can say, they can add it to their own formula for success, and I applaud them for it. I think that's a good thing. I think also mentorship, real quick, kind of works both ways, right? So in the traditional mindset, we have this older person, younger person. Here's from my years of experience. I relay all of these things that I've done, these things I have not done, these mistakes I've made, and the formulas that I've used for success. Awesome. I'd like to hear actually, from the ones my mentees, for lack of a better term, those mentees that I've had. So what have you done? And I want to hear, and a lot of great many times I've heard things like, oh, I never thought of that. Wow, that's pretty good. And then you walk away as a senior mentor, like I just learned something today, about a subject, maybe about their approach to a problem and how they solved it, right? That's, I think, the wonderful thing about having a good, if you will, mentee and
Right.
mentor relationship. Or in some circles in the Marine Corps, we've taught that the whole idea of the student scholar kind of relationship as
Yeah.
well. Again, fantastic. Over the years, I can say, like, I think every senior officer to me has always been a mentor, right? Including when I was, and I'll say that this probably my very first set of mentors was, again, when second Lieutenant Seeley's on the, they're reporting to his first platoon.
Yeah.
It was a staff sergeant and a sergeant that were my mentors.
Sure.
Okay.
They're the ones who were
100%.
like,
Yeah.
hey,
Yep,
Lieutenant,
absolutely.
we're not gonna let you fail
Yeah,
and,
you're like-
and do things second lieutenants do. We're gonna make sure that you're squared away. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it to this day. Right, Staff Sergeant Renee Augusto and a guy named Sergeant Ken Pickering, who later became my Sergeant Major when I was a 3rd Recon Battalion CO. He was my Sergeant Major. Those two men, I know, not convinced, I know that they set me on the right path, and I'm here because of them
Absolutely.
to this day. And they are tremendous human beings, and I will always love them for that. That they took me under their wing and like set me on the right path.
That's such a profound insight. Sorry, I mean, because just thinking back, it's at every level. When I was a platoon commander, it was my platoon sergeant.
Yep.
When I was a company commander, it was my
Yep.
first sergeant and my ops chief and my log chief. When the company gunny, when I was battalion XO, it was the sergeant major. It was the ops chief that, like you said, one provided that guidance. Like I've been here.
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But then two, I'm also not going to let you get fired today.
Right.
Because I really
Yeah.
seem to want to do that.
Yeah.
Quite often.
No, and that translates all the way. I'm in battalion command, doing tours in Iraq with these, incredible Marines, and my quote unquote older brothers were again, my ops chief, and the sergeant major, right, and my logistics chief, right. Those three gentlemen were, again, they were at the E8, master gunnery sergeant major level. It was like, that's it. I mean, I used to call them my older brothers. I got to go get some advice from my older brothers about something's going on, X, Y, and Z, and they would give me the best, concrete advice on how to work a problem, and it was fantastic.
It's usually very unfiltered too.
Yeah.
It's refreshing.
And I think it's good. I think it's a good thing. And I think that again, they're going to teach me, like, hey, it's okay to fall flat in your face. Okay, stand up, moving forward. Next, you may have only moved a step or two, but that's okay, right? Keep
You ain't
moving.
got time for you to lick your wounds.
Right, as long as you keep moving forward.
Sure. Interesting. So you talked about some of the Asian Americans, Vietnamese Americans specifically, who have reached the flag officer and general officer level. What is your thoughts as you look now to the force, this emerging generation? And I find it interesting, and I hope I don't stumble over this question too much, but as, for example, like working in my church group, working with student ministries and things, and seeing the kids and wanting to provide that mentorship, like you mentioned, sir, I don't want to see you make the same mistakes I made. My boys are, getting older now, and want to provide them with at least like, hey, you can trust that these things that I experienced.
Yeah.
You may, and here's a potential some courses of action to help you navigate those things. I wonder about as we have a more diverse force of through this emerging generation, but yet we've seen that this emerging generation is also distrustful of institutions. So you have folks that are who are identifying with things outside of their own merit. Would be it an Asian American second lieutenant, for example, who has grown up distrustful of institutions, but is also looking for mentorship. And oh my goodness, there's a 2-star Vietnamese American general. What sort of things, or what is that something that is? Are you conscientious of that, or is that something that you take on, or is it more like, hey, let the institution do the teaching, and then if you need help, I'll pick you up.
Sure. No. I think that I think like, and there at the time, right when I came in as a young lieutenant, there were none, right? So
exactly,
I'm the one of one kind of for a while. I mean, there were other Asian Americans, serving that already at the lieutenant/captain, kind of level, and then you kind of keep moving forward and you bump into somebody else. But again, to your point, they're far and few between at the time. And of course, demographics continue to get better in terms of recruiting, which is a good thing, because it's a cross section of America, no matter what and where you come from.
Right.
And I think that it's okay to have a little bit of that mentor, mentee relationship, but it's not just for a particular set of persons either, right? It's about everybody. Everybody wants some type of leadership, period. And again, and for me, one of my mentors was General Vince Stewart. Unfortunately, he passed away last year, and he was a great mentor to me, and over the years, and I had known him since I was a major, and he was a lieutenant colonel. That's when I really got to meet him for the first time, and he'd always served as a senior intelligence officer at the time. And myself in the intelligence field, he was the natural, mentor for me, and it didn't matter, if you will, that he's African American, I'm Asian American. He was just a really, really great human being, right? Who took the time out and would answer an email or a call. And that's just one, right? And other mentors again were my former MU commanders, now retired General Tom Moore, kind of thing. I've solicited his advice over the years. Even now that he's retired several years, I've still sought advice from him on some issues. So I take that with what would they do attitude. I've done that. I've done I wonder what my MU commander would have done. I wonder what General Stewart would have done. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right, and it keeps me grounded, right, on the advice they have given me, and then how I can turn that around to pass on advice to others who seek it. I think that for the young men and women growing up in the machine, as I like to call it, growing up in the Marine Corps, and then kind of pursuing their own careers, they'll start to develop their own networks, right? Of, like you said, mentors and mentees, and then kind of not just be only focused on, okay, just because he or she looks like me, or maybe comes from the same background, can I get advice? I should only get advice from that person. No. I think that today's Marine, right, does get a good, gets their information, gets their advice, gets their leadership guidance from a great cross section of Marines.
Yes.
It's not just me. I think it's also, hey, go talk to her, go talk to this person over here, go talk to him over there. He's a really good person to ask about, this particular MOS maybe, or maybe this duty station or what have you. I think those are good things. And I think today's Marines see that, right? I think that today's Marines, just like when I was, again, young lieutenant, they see through the BS. That if you're coming in and you're trying to act like somebody you're not, they will see it in like 5 seconds or less.
Amen to that, sir. I used to tell my lieutenants all the time, Hey, if you're an asshole, be an asshole. If you're a nice guy and a fun guy, then be the fun guy. Obviously, you have to stay within the regs. But the one thing the Marines will sniff out more than anything else is when you're being fake.
Yeah.
So if you're an asshole and you try to be the nice guy, you're going to come off, you're going to lose legitimacy, you're going to lose your authenticity, and they're not, they'll do what you say.
Yeah.
But you've lost them.
Got to be genuine.
Got to be genuine.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They can smell it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's helpful and interesting that you can get advice or seek input or even watch the behavior of such a wide cross section of people. That's what is so great about the military and the Marine Corps, as we're talking about today, that you have a group of people from all over the United States. So you've got all kinds of different perspectives. Everybody was raised in a different way, different things are normal in small towns that maybe not, you wouldn't experience that coming from a big city. So it's always, a great opportunity to learn just from watching and being around other people from other backgrounds.
Yeah. So on that point, that's thank you for mentioning that. Is it, or do we think we're beyond, and I'm not trying to make a social experiment here, but are we beyond the idea that, like, just in being that representation, like, are people still looking and when they see fill in the blank of a specific demographic in a high ranking position, that it's still the same significance that it did maybe 20 years ago? You're like, you see the representation, like, okay, I know now I can be that, or I can then achieve that. Are we past that point because we are on a very positive glide slope for diversification and integration, that
Good question.
just the view of it doesn't hold the same weight that it did maybe a generation or two ago?
That's a good question. I think when it I guess the good thing about diversity, and I still way the Marine Corps still approaches it, at least for me, it's still the best person forward. It's not the best fill in the category person. It's still the best person, right?
Yeah.
So, if I'm up for a position, I don't get the position or promotion or whatever, that's fine. It's why? Because they're not looking at a picture and a promotion board anymore, right? It's still about the merit, about the performance, what's on the finished report, what's on the paper, the piece of paper, what's on the record. Those things do matter, right? Because the Marines demand it, and they deserve it. They deserve to always have the best leader, from fire team leader all the way to the top. They deserve to have the best. That's, I think, what's important. And I think that the good news is that hopefully, again, more Americans all the way across are choosing to serve, number one. And if they happen to come from certain parts of the country, okay, we are getting the best men and women all the way across the country to serve. And then again, giving them the raw tools, giving them the training, giving them the education, okay, that they can take, put in their toolkit, and then boom, apply it, right, to live on our courage commitment day in, day out, and to advance and move forward. And if they choose to rise all the way to the commandant, awesome. If they choose to get out mid-grade, both as an enlisted Marine or as an officer, and they come captains of industry and start their own business, even better. Right, because they're taking those things, okay, that we've given them, those tools, those leadership tools, right, that integrity out into the business world, and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to serve their communities by maybe starting businesses, right, and making jobs, creating technology that we can use to better our society. All of those things are good, right? So that's where I see where we are today, and and we're, again, our world is so. Is so connected now, right? Yes. So we're not operating, Marine Corps is not operating in some kind of we're not sitting by ourselves in some isolated vacuum someplace, that we're a separate and distinct, institution that doesn't connect. Oh, on the contrary, we are connected, I think, right? And we're a reflection of that connected society already, all right? And we're part of a connected global world.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, so we, on that note, it's a great dovetail into what I wanted. So, as an intelligence officer, we talk about diversity. I remember hearing General Smith when he was ACMAC talk about diversity isn't a woke initiative. It is it's absolutely essential in great power competition because the threat nations and those who we will most likely oppose are myopic. They're homogenous societies that are top-down driven. They don't see diversity as a benefit. General Smith was making the point that diversity of thought, being able to problem solve with a wide array of viewpoints and angles at which you can achieve success is absolutely critical as we're talking about near peer and great power competition. What are your thoughts on that, sir? As an intelligence officer, I mean, one of the ideas I think of, and we were talking a little bit before we started recording, sir, was like when I go up against a Soviet era autocracy, I know what you're going to do if you're doing, say, a movement to contact. You scripted it. I have your playbook.
Sure.
You're not going to deviate from that.
Yeah.
When you go to fight the Marine Corps, you have no idea.
Right.
You have sort of a structure and a general guideline, but my God, we're going to change it on you. We're going to flip the script. I don't know. Is there valid?
No, 100%. I think that the notion and what the commandant was, I think, addressing obviously was that diversity of thought, right? That initiative, that creativity. I mean, that's who we are, right? Marines have always been innovating, right? We've always seen that innovation, and we've always had leaders step up with regard to that in terms of and how we approach warfighting. And again, a very simplistic, story I was told talking to some Vietnam veterans, right, who fought in Hue back in '68, and I've seen it also referenced in person with veterans I've spoken to, and then also I saw it in a documentary, and up until Hue and the Tet Offensive, again, it was Marines that were Marines who lived in rural areas on farms and out in the countryside, really kind of were the leaders and go-getters of leading their units in Vietnam when they're away from urban areas, right? So they're on patrols in jungles or going through, rice paddies and so forth. It was them kind of controlling the shots. Why? Because it's very similar to their farmlands, in Pick Estate, United States. Well, Tet goes down. Marines are being pulled into Hue City, and now it's urban combat. And who rises to the occasion? It's the kids from the big city. Mm-hmm. Those kids are like, no, this is how you approach, the street corner. This is, it's not looking, at the eye level, for fields of fire. It's like you have to now adjust your fields of fire upward, right? Because now it's snipers. Now it's all of those things like VC and and spider holes, and there's fighting in basements and sewers and all that kind of. It's a totally different battlefield. It was those kids that stepped up and were now the leaders and moving their units, their fire teams, their squads, platoons through, and clearing areas. That says a lot, I think, about the learning and adaptive organization of who we are. And that's just a very simple set, kind of set of stories that emerged from there. And then we kind of fast forward today, right? Now it's about, we'll call it what it is, man. It's just like highly connected, hyper technology, generation that we have again,
just leapfrogging,
right? Just jumping forward, right? And they're all about like, hey, let's start. Hey, why are we operating this set of equipment with these old hand levers and and joysticks? Like, hey, give me a gaming console over here. I'll show you how to do it, right? And so that's that kid, right? It's going to come out of it, right? It's it's finding kids. I had a Marine once who was we needed I'll call it what it is. We needed somebody to program Cisco routers, right? This is back in the 90s when I was on a MU, and we didn't know who could hey, I don't know anything about Cisco routers. Yeah, I don't know anything either, right? So this one kid from Louisiana, high school education. Give me that book for a second, and then he came back next week, and no kidding, I mean he programmed Cisco routers. He ended up working for the NSA after he got out of the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Right? Guy's phenomenal. He was our closet genius we didn't know about, right? And he was a phenomenal Marine. I still keep in touch with him today. His name's Ramon, kind of thing. Just phenomenal, just human being. And he saw the need, stepped up. Boom, here it is. right? And he's a great fisherman too. So I remember that too.
Well,
You know?
it also goes back to what you were talking about, opportunities.
Yep.
He had you gave him the opportunity, or he was given the opportunity, and he took it. He walked through the door.
He excelled. He walked through the door, excelled, and then we just and once we discovered he had this incredible natural talent for computer programming, and then we just here, congratulations. Which course are you going to next? Right, here's a form. We're going to fill it out. We're going to send you this course. We're going to send you this course. We're going to send you this course. And he came back with certifications. Right. And this was before, all the things that we do today, right? And then he ended up, once he transitioned out of the Marine Corps, he went to go to work for the NSA, and the rest is history, right? So that's again that same thing, right? Who would ever, we wouldn't have known that until we just kind of, hey, does anybody here? And he just volunteered and did it, right? So
love that.
But getting back to it, it's about this. Without the notion and idea of, again, not, diversity not with labels and how we look. It's really about our experiences, right? We could all look the same, but at one level, but it's really about how we're raised, where we come from, and then what are those experiences that we have and how we can use those experiences in the fight, right? To create something, to solve a problem, and then move out. I think that's where our greatest strength is.
Yeah. 100%, right? Yeah, I mean, cultivating that environment where, like you said, it's okay to fail. Mm-hmm. When you fall on your face, you're at least moving forward. Yeah. And that have that trust that you also have that team around you that's going to help pick you up, dust you off, and keep it going. I think, it's really great, and to hear you talk about it specifically. I think in the pre-show too. We were looking at the image in the last Marine Corps Gazette. Shameless plug. It has you in it. Talking about advising and assist missions, training, partnership stuff. If we were to, like as some of our peer competitors would like to do, to have this homogenous sort of reflection of what would be an ideal society that's stovepiped and rigid hierarchy, that sort of partnership is really going to be challenging to do because of there won't be that lack of experience we'll be able to tap into to say, like, hey, these two guys hate each other, and if we don't get them together, they're going to lose a war that has national strategic implications. So we need you to get in there and keep them from killing each other long enough so they can help defeat these other people. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's that common bond. I think you got to find that common experience, or the common set of circumstances that they both want and both need for their own survival, for their own success. Right. And if you can build that, that bridge between a couple of different parties, whether it be, again, as part of an advisor assist mission or another type of a partnership in some larger conflict or what have you, where you have allies, but the allies are still, they're still kind of having a little bit of friction on the seam. Okay, got it. This is how do we move beyond that, right? So how do we build a consensus, toward the end state, right, as part of our mission, and then you kind of go from there. I think that's really important. And again, as Marines, we think that way already all the time. I think in the sense that it's about whether we do more with less, okay, or for that matter, just really seeing that vision, right, as part of again, mission, task, mission, purpose, and then what's that end state, what's that vision? This is how we see it. And then building a team to accomplish that vision and end state, right? That's, I think, again, which gets back to the innovation, gets back to the creativity, which gets back to how Marines, thrive. I think in a mission command type of environment, where hey, here's the problem. Okay, let's see what kind of solutions you come up with, and let's move out, and then kind of quickly. Go through the iterative process to solve that problem, and then while we still have time, hopefully we can adjust on the fly, to bring in this or bring in that, to kind of solve the problem and adjust. And if the problem changes, the enemy changes something, fine. We're still flexible to change the battlefield too, and we can make adjustments either, while we're engaged with the enemy for that matter, or before we step off, we can make arrangements, somehow on our plan to go ahead and again create those conditions to achieve success.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what you're doing now. Talk about your role as Commandant of the Eisenhower School at National Defense University.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, it's a great position to be in. The Eisenhower School is one of our senior war colleges across all the services in terms of, and we're the actually the oldest. Well, we consider ourselves the oldest joint war college, even though we don't have the word war in our vernacular. But we're one of the senior top level schools. We're 100 years old this year.
That's right.
Nice.
Yep, started in 1924.
Looking good, sir. You're looking good.
We are looking good for 100, and we appreciate that. And it started originally as what was called the Army Industrial College, and that was started as a school to examine our shortfalls, our logistics and sustainment shortfalls with regard to industry coming out of World War One. And it was, things weren't. We may have, if you will, won World War One. We contributed heavily. There was studies that were done that our defense industrial base was not really prepared for it, and so how could we as a nation be ready for the next one should it ever happen? And really, the results that came out of that War Studies Board and then eventually the Army Industrial College led to some of the successes early on. At least we had with at the beginning of World War II. With at least having an industry base be able to shift on the fly to go from whether it be making automobiles, now we're going to start making planes, and then we just as you see
shipbuilding and all
shipbuilding,
that,
and you kind of get it ramped up. That all came out of that War Studies Board, so that was a good thing. Then eventually it became the Industrial College of the Armed Forces, and then I think 2012 it changed its name to the Dwight D. Eisenhower School for National Security and Resource Strategy. So. It still looks at the same in terms of has a framework of national security through the defense industrial base, and really takes a hard look at the defense industry with regard to also economics as part of our curriculum, and again the changing character of war. In terms of now technology and contested logistics and the speed at which conflict is fought now, so to speak, both from a hard technology perspective and with kinetics all the way to information, we're making the right turn to engage and study those things, right? So one of the unique things about our school, and I'll as a kind of a shameless plug but a good plug, we have 20 different seminars that study everything from, artificial intelligence, autonomous warfare, to shipbuilding, to aircraft manufacturer, to microelectronics. I mean, if you can, even strategic materials and mining, right? So we've got a cohort that's going down to South America to look at several different mines where we get our rare earth elements that we need to build the things that we need to build here as part of our industrial base, right? Not just for those military goods and services that and hardware that we need, but also for just the nation, right? All the elements that go into, again, the batteries for our electric vehicles. Where do they come from,
stuff
right?
To make laptop
and then
screens.
And we have to look through all the way across from, and then it's not just the element that we need. It's the supply chain. All right, so we may dig it out, and then get it on a ship and or taken somewhere. But okay, so now where is it refined? Right, and then what are the environmental concerns about that refinement? Is it overseas? Is it here? Okay, who controls that that refining capability? Right, and then how do we get that refining capability to the United States after, or do we refine it here? And then once we get it out of the refineries, okay, it's shipped off to some foundries, and then it's put into production to build X, Y, or Z. Right, all of those things are critical. So from a supply chain. And then blockchain security, all of those things, okay, are studied at the Eisenhower School, and that's I'm really kind of excited about where we're going, and the caliber of students that are coming in from across the military, both uniform and interagency. We're also the only war college, if you will, that accepts civilian students from industry as well. So we're authorized up to 35, what we call industrial fellows or industrial scholars program, and our industrial industry fellows, they come in, and they're coming from usually right now the big primes. We do have one startup that's there now, so they're able to join the class, and they represent the best of, if you will, our
Sure.
industry partners, and they share their insights from management perspective, and how does industry think about whatever product they're making, right? Whatever they produce and how they interact with contracts and everything else. So there's a really good relationship between those students, obviously our uniform students and our interagency students, as they move through the academic year all the way through.
What a great environment that
Yeah.
we're talking about to
Yeah.
share all of these various experiences
Yeah.
and have them,
And-
everybody able to tackle different
Right.
problems. For
I
different
mean,
levels.
and again, I mean, to get back to one of the earlier themes about diversity, it is truly a place where you see this diversity of thought and diversity of approaches and backgrounds come together to look at a problem set. In this case, it's really the economic and industrial engine of the United States, how we look at it,
Yeah.
right? And then where we can identify problems, and then they do their best to come up with solutions. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
There must be a tremendous amount of energy there, and what a great opportunity for people to learn from each other, like you were just saying, to see other people's perspectives in addition to their approach to problem solving.
And it's not just an intellectual exercise. You guys are actually doing experimentation through wargaming, right?
Right, that's correct. So we have a series over the year, like all the war colleges do, and the command and staff colleges. But we've introduced a little more artificial intelligence in the wargaming, and not just ChatGPT, right? So it's several different artificial intelligence tools that are included to go ahead and provide assessments, or to be able to ingest data, right, and have it kind of quickly analyze, that ingested data, and then kind of spit out some recommendations, if you will, based on the inputs. The good thing about we learned early on during our experimentation was, there was this kind of, I would say, a certain naivete with, hey, I'll just tap my question, I'll put my, I'll do a prompt engineering thing and put my stuff into ChatGPT, and it's going to tell me the answer, and I walk away. Hey, look, here's the answer. That's not true, right? The good news is that, again, using all the different tools that we enabled our students to use, were the students coming back saying, we don't trust it. Okay, and not trust in a bad way, but like, hey, you know what? Let's pull the thread on this, and we don't necessarily agree with its analysis. Here's our analysis of why, and the differences between the two different or three different answers that came out of, if you will, the artificial intelligence tools, and then what the student analysis turned out to be. So that's what we really wanted, was really about, again, artificial intelligence, the way we're using it is not the end all to be all. No, it is just a tool to be used like anything else, right? It's up to you. You can use the data as part of your own decision-making process, or reject it, or incorporate maybe only a fraction of it, right? But that's what we want our students to do. We want to be able to, our students to understand how to use it, right? What it is, how to do good prompt engineering, right? How to properly ingest the data and how it's analyzed. To look for those, we call them AI hallucinations, right? Or they don't lie, they just hallucinate, right? That's what we found. And so we want our students to challenge that. We want to be able to say, yeah, we don't agree with that, right? Or where did it come from? Okay, what's the reference? That it spit out an answer based on our question, but where did that reference come from? So that's what we want. That's what we want.
Blindly for what it is.
That's correct.
It's
That's right.
ChatGPT,
And there's been we've had some great successes with it in terms of, like, again, where we disagree with it, where we agreed with the artificial intelligence tools moving forward as part of, again, wargaming and its inputs. And we've done that throughout the year. In fact, we just concluded one exercise. We've had some others. We had some others do some research papers, again, more about it in terms of how artificial intelligence, won't get into specifics, but how artificial intelligence gave recommendations to home port, ships at a certain area, right, and why, right? So it was like, why did it say that, right? And so, again, enabled the students to go back and look at, again, the outcomes, and then and either agree or disagree with what the intelligence tools were passing. And then we'll look at expanding that next year too. Okay, what more tools what additional tools can we get? And then how fast can it do it? And we've discovered small things about, this can help with this simple mundane staff work. Yes, if the right prompt engineering is done, it can. right? But that doesn't. But also at the same time, it's not supposed to make people lazy, right?
Yeah, it's
so
not a panacea.
no,
Yeah.
and so we understand that. We want to keep people on the loop, so to speak, on the information loop, to make sure that things are done correctly.
I think it's great that you're teaching them discernment, essentially.
Yeah.
That don't accept it at face value. You still have to do the research. It's a tool, not the end state. Oh yeah, I think that's really great. And as technology continues to just leapfrog, having that sort of healthy skepticism about what you're getting, what AI is giving you, I think is a very good thing.
Right, and then what we're seeing through all the different seminars is not just one slice, right? So, how does artificial intelligence or the use of impact so many other things, and that it goes into biomedical, it goes into, how large scale mining operations can have artificial intelligence tools help with just daily operations, right? And just and that could be through scheduling of trucks and vehicles and when to turn equipment on and off, and for power savings, and then of course all the other things that gets more in depth with autonomous warfare. So we're seeing this kind of cross thread, all the way through. Again, it's not the one thing; it's just really a tool to enable a great many other parts of our, in this case, the defense industrial base, to be able to use.
Yeah. Well, sir, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being so generous with your time. This has been unbelievable. I could honestly be here for another hour or two, but schedule won't allow for
He
that.
probably
But
has more important
yeah,
stuff.
this was
I
good.
would feel great about
This was
it. You would
fantastic.
feel awful because you'd be behind on everything you got to do today. But thank you so much for taking the time to come in, to be in person as
Yes,
well.
we appreciate
so
it.
appreciate it.
No, it's an honor to be here, and I'm really glad. This is again the Marine Corps Association and everything you do here is just fantastic, right? And what you do and the products that you put out really, again, beneficial for all Marines. Whether it be future current and beyond is a great thing. You're really keeping us all tied together, and we all of us appreciate it.
Thank you so much,
It's
sir.
our
Well,
pleasure.
thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
This episode is brought to you by the Marine Corps Association and Foundation. Did you know that when you leave a gift to the Marine Corps Association Foundation in your will or estate plan, you help ensure the future of our professional development programs for Marines? Leaving a beneficiary designation gift is a simple way to support Marine Corps Association Foundation, and you can designate us as a beneficiary of a retirement account, life insurance policy, or bank account. This gift will cost you nothing now, and you are not locked into a decision you make today. You can learn more about planned gifts by going to the Samuel Nichols Society page on the Foundation's website at www.mca-marines.org/foundation. That's www.mca-marines.org/foundation. We would like to thank the Marine Corps Association and Foundation for sponsoring this episode. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Litchman and/or William Truding, and Major General William Seeley, USMC. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.